Today I'm joined by Graham Knight. Graham is a partner and co-owner of Knight Accountants, which is a family-run firm of chartered accountants based in St Leonards-on-Sea. So welcome, Graham.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Good to be joining you.
Yeah, no, thanks for joining us today, Graham. So, Graham, tell us a bit more about Knight Accountants.
Well, we've been going quite a while now. We started about 17 years ago. So prior to that, I was an accountant for a group of oil companies. We had offices all over the world, so I had to travel to the Middle East a lot, which is where our head office was. And then our first daughter was born, and priorities changed, life changes, and came back to the UK and started Knight Accountants with one client, basically. So it was a big step back, if you like, in terms of a career and what have you. But the idea was a step back to take, 2 steps forward, really.
Excellent. And so does Knight Accountants sort of specialise in anything, or a particular industry or area or anything like that, Graham?
Yeah, so we kind of the firm is kind of split. We're not split, but there's 2 divisions to it. So one side of it is we deal with all client types, so small businesses, medium-sized businesses, in all different industries. The side that I head up, that's all I do is I do service charge accounts. So we're property specialists. So effectively we financial report on what buildings spend their money on. So that's my area. We work with I'd say about 80 managing agents across the country. London, Bristol, Manchester, obviously local ones as well, but in Sussex, but yeah, mostly probably London and beyond, really.
Excellent. And so look, you mentioned there that you set up your business about 17 years ago, and why at that time, Graham, did you decide to start a new business? You mentioned that your first daughter was born, but why set up your own business rather than just join another firm of accountants?
Well, I think it was the company I'd worked for was a fantastic company. I audited around 20% of the world's oil rigs, traded with BP, Shell, Pride International, some of the biggest oil companies in the world. But I just really crashed and burned. And I think that it wasn't just a sort of financial thing. It was more of a sort of lifestyle. And I was able to then spend time with my daughter. I was able to grow the business just sort of one step at a time. So I think it was kind of maybe living life on my terms a little bit, was probably more driven by that. Being able to attend every sports day, school pickups, that kind of thing. That they were probably more important to me than being on the other side of the world, really. So I think it was driven by lifestyle more than financial, I think, at that point.
Okay, I like it. That's great. And sort of taking yourself back then to sort of 17 years ago, then when you set up that business, did it give you what you wanted in terms of the lifestyle that you wanted at that time?
It certainly did. It gave me a lot of free time because we only started with one client. And I think the challenge at the time was getting the phone to ring. So it was a difficult. It was quite a challenge because I'm 25. Perhaps people wanted their accountant to be sort of more my age now or older, and I was relatively young. I was well experienced, but I was relatively young. So it was really getting the phone to ring and getting people to sort of use us over perhaps more established firms and well-known firms. But I think certainly that kind of family feel, that sort of that approach worked for us in those early days. But it was a slow process, I must admit.
Yeah. So would I be right in saying that a lot of the time that you were investing at the business at that time was was business development effectively, rather than actually, because if you had one accountant, you're spending, sorry, one client, you were spending time looking after that particular client. But I guess the rest of the time was, as you said there, getting the phone to ring, you know, the business development to generate new clients.
Yeah, so obviously we developed the website, sort of the beginnings of social media. Probably showing my age a little bit now, but advertising in the Friday ads, driving around to people's houses, and probably some of our early work, probably again perhaps showing my age a bit, but was from advertising in the Friday ads. And every new client was a bit of a sort of celebration, really. But I think that slowly but surely and gradually over a period of time, the seesaw starts to balance the other way, where you're not having to chase every single new customer. It could be word of mouth or good SEO on the website, or social media's building, and all of a sudden it starts. It isn't a trickle anymore. It's starting to be running water, which taking that back to now, it's the other way around. It's trying to keep up with demands, and finding good people to service that demand, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and look, am I correct in did I read somewhere that I don't know, I've looked at some of your social media posts, but that you've now got over 1,000 clients. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we're probably approaching 2,000 clients now. A lot, the majority of those will be buildings, if you like. But yeah, we've got a lot of sort of local clients, but the lion's share of our clients are managing agents across the country. So yeah, we're now a team of 10. So we have grown. We're not huge, but our how can I put it? Our focus has never been on size and turnover. Our focus has been on performance of business. And I think that sometimes people can look too much at turnover and less so at profitability. And I think for us, we've grown really well, and we've been selective, if you like, to some extent, with the sort of work we. And well for us.
Yeah. Okay. So we take ourselves back sort of 17 years. You had one client. Gradually sort of grew that up to today. You got pushing 2,000 clients. That's a great achievement. I mean, what do you put down that sort of attribute that growth to?
Yeah, I think probably. Yeah, I heard something recently where somebody, a businessman, gave some advice, and the first bit of advice he gave was things take time.
Yeah.
And I think that year one was quiet, year two was quiet probably, and you just get that sort of snowball effect. It's probably the best way I can describe it. But I think it's just consistently turning up and working hard every day. But that. It does take time, and perhaps we live in a world now with the way it's changing, and technology and social media and now artificial intelligence, that people expect may be able to create instant results or close to instant results. But in most cases, and certainly in my experience, it's just applying yourself over a period of time. And maybe not giving up on something too early. And I could have easily given up early in the first year, 2-3 years. I could have easily and gone out and got a job and been in a much better position. But we stuck to what we believed in and what worked for us as a family and raising children. And we wanted our work to revolve around our life rather than the other way around.
Like it. Yeah, absolutely. There's a great saying, which is being in business should give you more life. That's what being in business is about, isn't it? That it gives you the life that you want. And I think what you've said there is just so important, that that patience, and also consistency. Because I mean, look, you know, being an accountant, I'm sure you probably know these sort of statistics anyway, and these are very broad statistics, but you know, 60% of new businesses fail in the first 5 years, and 90% fail in the first 10 years. And when using that word foul, that's not just necessarily that they completely failed, went bust or anything like that. That's because people also gave up. It was, you know, it was difficult. It was too hard. It was difficult to get the clients. It was, you know, challenging work. So they went back to being an employee. And what you're sort of saying there is you stuck with it. You persevered because you could ultimately see the life that this could give you, and the success that it could be.
Yeah, I think what it was. I mean, it's both myself and my wife Kelly that, you know, we'd kind of got enough experience in our fields and in our craft.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's not like we did it for a year and then set up by ourselves. You know, we've both kind of been involved for probably 7 to 10 years before we set up by ourselves. I think to sort of flip that on its head a little bit, what you said is sometimes it is the right decision to give up,
Yeah.
sometimes or change course. So that necessarily, and I think probably at some stage during that time I probably did consider it. But you know, it's one of those where only that person in that situation knows whether they should be continuing on that path or not. And we see it all the time with clients where you know, they're self-employed. They're earning less than what they would if they were employed. And you know, I certainly wouldn't say they're giving up, so to speak, but they're just changing their direction, where they've gone from running their own small firm to getting a job and going home at 5 o'clock and forgetting about everything, you know. And so I do think that you know, what's right for one person isn't right for the other. And what was right for me was to stick on that course and persevere, because I knew that, you know, like I said earlier, you know, attending every sports day and the Christmas and trying to get the Christmas concerts and what have you for the kids, they were my sort of motivation, if you like, because, like you say, you know, living life on your terms, really.
Yeah. Yeah, look, you're so right. What you say there is that being a business owner is difficult. It's not always everything it's cracked up to be. And actually, the right thing is to do what you want to do. If you want to be an employee, be an employee. If you want to be a business owner, be a business owner. If you want to be an entrepreneur that owns loads of businesses, be an entrepreneur. But be whatever you want to be, rather than what you think, you know, you should be, or doing something that makes you unhappy. So, like, yeah, great points there, Graham. So Graham, if you had to start from square one in business again, what would you do differently? What would you change now you've got the benefit of hindsight?
Yeah, good question. Good question. What would I do differently? I'll probably do a lot of things differently, and probably haven't quite got enough time to cover them all. But I think that I think for me, I wouldn't necessarily do things differently, because that was my journey and that was my path to where we are now. And you know, I would have made mistakes and lost money on things, I'm sure. But I think it's just, I think probably the best advice I can give is just going to go and do something.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I read books. I'm sure a lot of people do, and you know, it's one of those where you can gain as much knowledge, you know, and go through that process. But sometimes you've just got to go out and actually take that action and do it. So I think, you know, perhaps I probably wouldn't have done it earlier, because like, as my point earlier, I do think you need to learn your craft and be in organisations and learning from people for a period of time. So like I said, I don't want to make it sound like I didn't make any mistakes, but I think I just want to kind of own my path and the way that it worked for us.
Yeah.
That yeah, I probably wouldn't change anything directly, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, okay, you're absolutely right. Well, they say that there's no such thing in life as mistakes, only learning opportunities. So I think that's a great sort of view. And look, you. So I think, am I right in saying now that you mentioned that 17 years ago you had your first child? Am I right in saying that you've got 3 children now?
It was just under so it was just under 17 years. So they're 16, 13 and 13. So all girls, quite a handful. Sometimes going to work is having time off really, but it's they've been involved in various business ventures we've had down the years. They've helped out at bits and pieces. They come into the office and type up bank statements and do scanning and bits and pieces. Whether any of them will follow in the footsteps, possibly not. They'll find their own way of their own path, I guess. But yeah, the eldest is just off to do college and follow her path through teaching and what have you, so which works well for her. But yeah, it's been an eventful journey, shall we say.
Yeah, and I can share your pain. I've got 2 daughters similar ages, so 17 and 14. So but only the 2, not the 3.
Yeah.
And I think I'm right in saying that Kellie, your wife, she's also your partner in your business as well.
Yeah.
So it's a real sort of family business from what you sort of say.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those where I mean, she qualified before me. Dare I say it? I would say she's a better accountant than me because she can do everything. She can do lots of different aspects. And I have a sort of very small niche area that I've just decided to focus on because I love property and I knew it well, and it had good experience in it. So I specialised in one area. So yeah, certainly what we've done together, in business. So and in life. So it's worked well.
So how do you, having running the business with Kellie, having sort of three daughters, as we've discussed, that have you've had those daughters that have grown up to the ages they are now during the time that you've been running that business. How do you manage or balance your personal life with the demands of running a business?
Good question. Well, I think it helps that we run. I have my side, if you like, my half, in terms of the clients, and Kellie has her side, so that works. So we kind of almost operate in 2 different divisions, and although the team does merge across, we do have specific members of the team that work solely on one side or the other. So I think that helps. I think it's been one of those where we've kind of grown the business together, and we've raised our kids together. So it's just been perhaps a little bit unorthodox maybe, because I'll pick up the kids from school one day, she'll do it the next day. Summer holidays, I'll be off one day, she'll be off the next day. And it's one of those where we kind of hope, like to think we bring sort of in equal measure to the family side and the work side. Yeah. So it's we just have to work as a team, and it's worked. As I said earlier, it's worked well for us. So
no, look, great. And so I guess partly what you've mentioned there is organisation, being structured in what you do. Okay, you work one day, Kellie works the next day. You pick up the children one day, Kellie will do it the next day. So having that structure to how you manage things, I guess, has helped.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We plan and organise, and sometimes we just have to adapt. Sometimes it might be, a client meeting, or one of us has got at times of the year it'll be busier for me, at times of the year it'll be busier for Kelly. So it just really just depends. So they're a bit older and a bit more independent now, so they're out with their mates or out with a boyfriend or whatever, and so it actually gives us a little bit more time to work. But yeah, it's you're right. It's just organising and having that plan in place, really.
So yeah, so the other two things I picked up there from what you said is so you got the organisation that you said, but communication, between the two of you. Okay, I've got a client meeting. Can we sort of change things around slightly? And I guess just a bit of understanding as well in terms of, right, we need to move things around. So yeah, organisation, communication, and a bit of understanding as well. Okay, that makes absolute sense. And so if your role has effectively changed over the last 17 years, because as I mentioned sort of earlier on in this discussion, you started off, you had one client, so a lot of your time would have been focused on business development. Your clients grow, so then you're spending more time doing accountancy. Your team has grown now. I think did you mention you've got 10 team members? So now you've also got the role of your accountancy role, but a leader and a manager and human resources and all those sort of things as well. How do you balance all those different roles that you now need to do?
I'd say we're very hands-on, so we still very much do a lot of the accounts work ourselves. We deal, generally speaking, we're okay on the HR. We don't really have many problems to deal with down the years, which is good. I do all our own social media because I'm quite particular. So we kind of it's not one of those where we're entertaining clients and I'm on the golf course. We are very hands-on, and we tend to muck in. We clean our own office, we change our so we are very hands-on like that. Maybe that's just the nature of what we're like, I suppose. So yeah, perhaps I shouldn't. As a coach, you might say, no, you need to outsource all that and you concentrate on the income, the income generating side. But for us, I love getting on the social media, and we do a lot of community work, a lot of sponsorship, charity work, and what have you. So I love it's a big aspect, massive aspect. Well, it's a huge aspect of what we do, really. So yeah, I think that might answer your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And look, you're partly right in what you sort of say in terms of, as a coach, I would sort of, suggest that you review the activities that you do so that you can focus on the things that you're good at, but also the things that you like. So it is getting that balance right, and it sounds as though you like rolling up your sleeves and getting involved, and that's we've got to do things that we like as well as the things that we're good at. Generally, the things we like and we're good at are very similar. But yeah, look, I completely understand what you're saying. So look, tell us a little bit more about, because you mentioned there about charity, etc. You've got the Knight Foundation, haven't you? So what's the Knight Foundation about?
Yeah, so Knight Foundation is basically I want to say we're in the process of getting charity status, but in a nutshell, it is the physical, mental well-being of children in our local area. So sort of Hastings and St Leonards and surrounding areas. Mm-hmm. So it can be fun. We're at early stages, and like I say, the charity status is pending. So yeah, really just we've been involved in such a number of projects. So we've been sponsoring sports teams, funding childcare provisions, things like that. So yeah, it's kind of a bit sort of a wide range at the moment, but like I say, it is early stages, and yeah, we're hoping just to kind of have a bit of a proactive approach to helping to support community sporting general activities, so children can enjoy these activities without worrying, without maybe the family or guardian worrying about the cost of those activities. So that's kind of our main focus, really, is making it accessible to everyone, irrespective of their background. So yeah, and it's just sort of something that we sort of born about a year ago, and something we're looking to really kick on, and push on with, really.
I think that's such a great thing to be doing. So like, well done for doing that, Graham. I think that's such a nice thing to
Thanks,
do
Simon.
for any business, to give back to the community and to help young people and that sort of thing. So yeah, look, well done. Wish you every success with that. So
yeah, thank you.
Look, one final question that I like to ask all of my guests that I interview is what's the best advice that you would give to an 18-year-old you?
Oh, yeah, good question. I think the first thing that comes to my mind, and I think I touched upon it earlier, is just kind of like taking action, really. So, we can be in education, we can learn, but I think sometimes going out and doing something, experiencing something, and probably the best example I can give in my life was I was working for a good company, a company called Park Holidays UK, who own a lot of caravan parks, and very large company. I was working at their head office, and I was offered the opportunity to go and work for a group of oil companies, and I finished there on the Friday and flew Saturday, and by Sunday I'd been in Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Sharjah, and Ajman. On the Sunday, I was stood in an oil rig in Sharjah, not necessarily to work, but to get an understanding of the business as their group accountant. And I think that it was a really life-defining moment for me in terms of the world, what's out there, opportunity, the way the world works. Very interesting culture, and it just, I think that I learned so much. I worked for a gentleman called Richard Upshaw. He's a very good entrepreneur. Would probably sit on a Dragon's Den panel, and I worked closely with him for over 2 years, and it just opened my eyes up to the world and possibility and ambition, and I think that, coming back to your question and the advice, is that all came about because I decided to take action and certainly go outside of my comfort zone in quite a technical job. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. So yeah, my advice would be is not necessarily to hide in a classroom or behind a book, but to go out there and experience it and do it, because I think a lot of people value a CV and they value qualifications, but they also value experience and what people have done in the world.
Yeah. Thank you. I mean, I think there's some great things wrapped up in that, as you say, sort of, taking action, pushing yourself outside your comfort zone, creating experiences and learning opportunities that you've done. And I think the other thing you mentioned there is learning from great people, like that you mentioned that gentleman there as well, taking opportunities to learn from other people. So a lot wrapped up in what you just sort of said there. So great. Thank you for sharing that. So Graham, I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today and sharing more about your business and also your journey as well. So thank you very much.
No, it's good speaking with you, Simon. Really good speaking with you.
Great. Thanks, Graham.
Yeah, thank you.